All right, my 71 F100, doing my water pump install. I have a previous video, part 1 and 2 of the removal of the water pump, if you want to check that out. As you can see, the water pump's gone. If you saw the last video, this was really caked up really bad with all kinds of old antifreeze and gunk, and you know, really wasn't looking too pretty. As you can see, there's still quite a bit that I'll worry about later. I was probably going to take it to the car wash and hose down the frame and stuff later, but basically it took me a good 2 hours to scrape this stupid thing. As you can see, there's still quite a bit here that I really just cannot get off. So what I'm going to do is go for it and make sure I use some gasket sealer, and hopefully this will work well. But if it doesn't, I'll know exactly what my problem is. A lot of people recommend that you change the thermostat if you're already doing all this, because it's like a $15–20 part. I just recently replaced mine, so I'm not going to do that. I did replace my fuel filter while I was at it. As you can see, it's still chugging back up. So basically what I'm going to do is I zip corded this mount out of the way here so that I can work a little easier, because there's a little bit finagling the water pump in there, but pretty simple. Basically just adding the gasket, the sealer also, obviously, and you know, you basically just place this up. As you can see, I put the bolts in the new one where they went so I wouldn't forget. And basically I'm gonna have to stop the video because I can't do this with one hand, but just gonna line this up and put it in place with the gasket in place, and I'll be right back. Okay, now what I've done here is I've put on some it's actually a silicone gasket sealer. You do not actually have to do this if you're using the gasket, which I am actually using, but since I was having so much trouble getting it clean, I decided to do both as precaution. Now if you're using this silicone sealer, when you tighten it on, you only want to get it kind of hand tight, and then you want to stop and wait till the next day, then you come back and finish tightening it, because you don't want to squeeze all the silicone out, but you need it to make it, you know, dry and make a good seal, and then next day come back and give a little more squeeze onto it. Okay, now I've laid out my gasket, how it goes. I'll have the long bolts in for right now, just so that when I line it up, the gasket stays in place how I need it to be. And I'm going to line it up onto the motor, how it goes. Okay, now as you can see, I lined it up. I just have the bolts kind of sticking out a little bit. Now what you got to do is you got to kind of, I wish I didn't have this ratchet on here, but basically you got to get it just set in there snug a little bit, and do the other side, and then back to this side, and then back to the other side, just until you get it in there firm and straight. Everything has to line up correctly. Okay, now you want to start all of the bolts at least a little bit before you get anything any kind of tight, because you want to make sure that that gasket back there hasn't moved around on you or something. And I hopefully am getting there soon. Alright, so basically I'm just gonna snug them up just a tiny bit there. Alright, as you can see, I did not tighten all the bolts all the way. Okay, now, some of the ones that are missing are for brackets and stuff, but they're not all tightened. So now that I can go basically and not be able to get my ratchet in there, but I can basically go and start turning them all until it slowly comes into flush. Okay, that one's there. Okay, now that one I did not get any kind of tight because I want to come back to this side first. As long as I do that, the rest of them should go in with no problem. And unfortunately, I cannot unscrew this one with this bracket in the way. A little bit of nastiness coming out, not so great, but it'll be fine. Now, these type of things have torque specifications, so you really should check what they are. I believe mine's somewhere around 19 pounds. Right now I'm just, like I said, getting hand tight. I want to make sure everything is where I want it first. Okay. Okay. Now, all I did is screw back and forth from side to side, back and forth, okay, to make sure everything is nice and even. Now it's not actually finished because when I put this mount in place, the bolt actually goes through and also pulls it to the motor again. But like I said, I could not do that until I tighten this one, because this will be in the way. Okay, you probably do not have that issue. Alright, so next is I have to find something that'll fit in there to tighten that one up, but that's not a big deal. And then basically starting to put my power steering back, then my alternator back, and then the hoses and so on and so forth. So let me get this bolt tightened. Okay, the other thing I wanted to remind you of is don't forget, as you can see right here, let's get this focus, there we go. Some of the gasket sealant is seeping through, but for me it's not a big deal. I'm just using it as a precaution. But if that's the only thing you're using, you do not want to over squeeze it out. Make sure you clean it up nice. Okay, so next thing I'm gonna do here is take my breaker bar, and as you can see, I can move this back and forth very easily. Line up those holes. Alright. And now, I believe the long one goes down here. I don't think we're lined up yet. Let's see here. There we go. Hopefully I'm getting that on there for you. Sorry, I know I'm kind of mumbling here. I'm trying to concentrate on a couple things at once here. Okay, now this is just what I'm using just for now. Don't laugh at me. This tiny ass thing here, ratchet, but just want to get it on for right now. Get it hand tight. Now, since my gasket is basically where I want it, and I know that when I go through the rest of the holes I'll be safe, I've already tightened these, you know, how they should be. I just went hand tight, you know, like a little bit of strong arm, not much at all. But like I said, that's because I have the gasket, but you don't want to over crank it and break anything, and you be very upset when you have to take it back off and go find the right bolts, which you'll probably have trouble finding, as I did. Now I'm having a little bit of trouble only because I actually bent it a little bit when I was taking it out, but it's not a big deal. So I'm gonna finish doing that and I'll be right back. Okay, now luckily I didn't get too far, but this bolt here needs to come out, so I almost forgot to put my bracket back. Now this is the bracket that slides the alternator along. So sorry for the camera work, but I'm trying to use two hands and hold the camera. Okay, now there we go. Now that should work nice and snug. Let's use a real ratchet this time. Okay, so put these two bolts on. You know, same thing, relatively tight, but only hand tight because gasket sealant, and these bolts run all the way through to the back. Okay, so now same thing over here. I unzip corded my little bracket here. This is in here just by hand. So now I can basically undo that, as you see. Now if I find my hole here, where it should go, there it is. Now I'm only doing this hand tight because I still have to move it in order to line it up for these bolts. Okay, now for some reason these ones are just short little bolts here, but it is what it is and it works, and that's all I care about. Okay, so let's put these in here hand tight here. Now they did not have a clutch fan in stock for me, and as opposed to wait for it, I'd rather just order the one I'd like. So I put a little hold on that, but basically the clutch fan would go here and then the fan would go. And let's not forget we have to put the shroud back, which I took off just to get it out of the way since it was only 4 bolts. Okay, so next thing is to check here which size. I believe it's the one on the breaker bar. Or not. There we go. Okay. Okay, so just tightening these bolts up here. Now these are on the bracket, so it's actually not even that hard to reach them. So for right now, I'm not all that worried about them. I just want to get them pretty damn tight. Okay, next thing is the fan. Okay, decided to put the belts on first, so here we go. Alright, power steering belt. Since everything is nice and open right now, it'll be a lot easier. Okay, so that's gonna be it for that. I'm sure this one will not go on quite so easily, as they usually don't. Now I know there's actually a trick to this where you can actually just get it started and start up the motor, but I am not Johnny Dangerously. I do not play like that. Okay, so I think I'm going the wrong way here. I am. Turn it back the other way. And Alright, might have to get the breaker bars. That does not want to move. Okay, as you can see, with the breaker bar, no issues. Okay, now, if this will just bounce here for me for a second. Now I can just flip that belt on there. Give it a little push the other way. And looks pretty good to me. So now once that one's, you can give that a little bit of push. You tighten this one as you push on this one, so obviously I can't do that with one hand. Soon I'll start using my other camera, but I have to work some issues with the computer. This one's just easier to make the videos fast. So basically, just give this breaker bar a push, rotates this tighter, and you tighten that up. Okay, now they say when you're doing this, the 1/8 inch to 1/4 inch of play, I don't really quite understand. I just know that a little bit of flex is good enough. That way once it gets spinning fast, it kind of tightens up. You know, you don't want to stretch this out and break it. Although it's got the ribs and everything, it's, you know, doesn't mean it, nothing can happen to it. Now this side, real quick, what I'm going to do is, I notice there's quite a bit of crud in here. Alright, from when I cleaned everything out, so before I put that together, I want to give that a little cleaning here. Make sure I don't gum up the works here, so to speak. Alright, I think that'll be good. So, once again, same thing. It's pretty easy to figure out which one lines up with which one. Now this is going to be the same thing. I'm just going to give this thing a lift, and I'm going to tighten up the bolts, and that'll be it. Okay. Now, I had to take the alternator belt back off because I just realized that this pulley right here does not go back on with that belt on. So, just basically line this up. Alright, it's just going to sit there for right now. Also going to throw the belt along the bottom one and the top one. Alright, now it does get thrown over this, so just sitting it on there for right now. Okay. Now, same goes for the alternator belt. Okay, just a little snugness there. Okay. Now, from there, the only way to keep this one tight is to put the fan on. Okay, so here's the fan. Okay, goes on that little button there. I'm sure it always loves to sit there snug like it's supposed to, because we all know that parts behave like they're supposed to all the time. Or never. Oh, don't fall, don't fall. There we go. Okay, now just gotta make sure I'm, come on, find one of them holes there. Get in there. Alright, let me get this first one started. Okay. Now I got the first one started. Where are we here? Here we are. Okay. Still gapped. This is still loose. Okay, but that's basically what we're doing here. Putting the fan back on. Hopefully Hopefully everything lines right up. There we go. Alright. Now, one thing I forgot to mention, when you first put the water pump on, before you put the fan and the pulley back on, let's just make sure that your water pump turns freely. I know mine does because now it's screwed in, and I've already checked it. But before you put these on, just give it a little turn and make sure it turns. Because if not, you've got a defective one and you don't want to install that. Okay, so now, actually, kind of coming down to it, really. Basically, gonna finish tightening these up, and I will re-tighten the belt like I showed you, and then from there I believe we're just going to be putting hoses back on. Okay, now basically got them all just kind of hand tight. I take my little handy dandy tool that you can rent at pretty much any tool store. You know, there's different ones for your vehicles, but some of them have like bolts that you attach to it or something like that. But mine's just hold this while you crank on this. I just wanted to mention, when you're tightening these up, okay, you hold this one still, and you ratchet this one, okay. But what you're gonna do is do a couple turns here, couple turns there, couple turns here, couple turns here. Keep going back and forth in order to get it coming in nice and smooth. You don't want to bend this shaft or anything, because then you're really gonna have problems. You're gonna have a big mess. But yeah, basically that's what I'm gonna do. And then like I said, I'm also gonna tighten these belts up as soon as I'm done with that. Okay, now on this one, I need to tighten this pivot bolt. I'm sorry, this is the pivot bolt. I need to tighten this bolt. And what I'm going to do is, I'm just going to push on this and then tighten that bolt. Okay, just works a little bit different. Not a big deal. Just because this one doesn't tighten the same in order to make everything move. Okay, so belt's on. I think this one might be a little bit loose, but I'm going to wait until I start the vehicle up to figure it out. Okay, now I took all this off because I'm going to replace some hoses going to my PVC valve, stuff like that, but I'll worry about that later. Like I said, now it's time to check on your thermostat and everything. Mine was just replaced, so it's good to go. So next is fan shroud. Okay, so here's my fan shroud. Hopefully I can get this bad boy on here. Okay, I fit the fan shroud in here. It's just sitting here for right now, but I actually got a new return hose that goes from here, the water pump, down to the bottom of the radiator. So I'm gonna put that on first, just so that I don't have any trouble getting to it and wind up having to pull this fan shroud back out and get all aggravated. So basically, very simply, come in here and it should go right on like that. Okay, no big deal. Okay, fan shroud's going on next. Just a couple of bolts here. Not a big deal at all. Kind of get them started here. I'm gonna push that back in there. multi-tool action. Okay, same thing down here. Real simple. Or not. Where is it? Come on. It started, but it ain't. There we go. I want to go in. And the last one here. Alright, and then they just get tightened down. Okay. Now, let's start putting some hoses back on here. Right, there's one. Get on there. Get on there, come on. This stupid freaking design. Alright, let me finagle that a little bit better. Okay, so it's on there tight now. Now, tell you what, hoses, very cheap, and whenever you go to the mechanic, they always fix something, and then they're like, oh, we changed a couple hoses for you. Appreciate it, awesome. But honestly, they're so damn cheap. And when you're doing these things, you should really replace them. I've already replaced all of my hoses recently, except for the one that I just replaced down on the bottom, which I forgot to show you, as you can see. Okay, just into the bottom of the water pump. Okay, that's the water pump. Into the bottom, and follow it through, and to the bottom of the radiator. Okay, so now this one's going on pretty easily, luckily. Make sure it's on there good. Now also, mine goes over the alternator, so make sure you're not in any way going to like melt hoses and get them wet and get the alternator wet or anything like that. Shouldn't be any issues, especially if you're just replacing what you already have. But if you're replacing the hoses, just be cautious. Okay. Yeah, this is not gonna let me do this with one hand. Okay, now you wanna make sure you go tight, squeezing around the thing, but you also don't want to go so tight that you break this little piece right here. Okay, where it connected. Where you put it on, you don't want that to break, so you gotta be cautious. But you do want to go pretty tight. Now you also want to make sure that if you do have old hoses and they're like really impressioned, like let's say this old hose right here, it's got a pretty deep impression, so much that it's actually deformed the shape. Okay, that's no good. You want to get rid of that, because when you put the next clamp on, if you don't put it on properly, it's going to leak. Okay, so next thing here is actually the hose I just showed you. I forgot to replace that one, but it's gonna go on for today. I'll replace it later. But also, if you do not have these type of screw-on clamps, I recommend that you change them while you're in here, because the other ones, like I said, if you do not position them exactly how they were, it could cause an issue. So, belts are on, fan shroud's on, fans on, hoses are on. I gotta connect the hose to the radiator, and then put up a couple other things I was doing, and then that'll basically be it. Besides fill the radiator. Okay, now I put this hose back on. I'm tightening it up, and I'm going to replace this hose because it's old and it's worn, just like I just showed you. Alright, so now what I did do is I'm making sure that the impressions, there we go, the impressions that are on here are lining up with this, okay, in order to try not to leak just for now, but I am going to go, as soon as I fill this up, go take care of it. Okay, now all I'm doing is filling my antifreeze up. Just make sure that your that the bottom is plugged, otherwise you can have a big mess. I do not use 50/50. I use yellow, which goes in all cars, but make sure you use the correct antifreeze. Otherwise you could create problems in your motor. And as you can see, doesn't seem so far to be any leaks. Everything looks okay. Just gonna add some more water and some more antifreeze. Okay, now filled it up. Probably gonna take some more water. If you have any problems getting it to go down, give a couple squeezes to one of the hoses and let some of the air out. Now my truck's probably not going to start up right away because not only have I not driven it for a couple days, but I changed the gas filter, so there's probably no gas in there. So it's probably going to take quite a bit of pumps in order for that to work. Let's make sure we're in neutral here. Because my choke gets stuck there. Got a little bit of the crap that I put on burning off and whatnot. As you can see, this is trying to come up. So before that happens, let's put the cap on. Now, since I just put antifreeze in, I want to make sure that your heat